Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Face Off podcast with me. I'm Derek Schoonover. We're here to do this thing. It's going to be weird. That's all I can say. We had a tight focus here. I like a tight focus. It's a little more intimate. And get up close. Get up real close. And get in there. Get real. Testing the limits really is what we're here to do. As an introduction, let's tell you what this is all about. Thanks for watching in the first place. This is a really weird thing, and it's good that it found some eyes. Your eyes. Those are probably my eyes I'm pointing at. I'm probably the only one watching this. It's going to be a weird thing, like an Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. It'll just be me watching this documentary. That's a little highfalutin. Watching this podcast thing of me talking about Face Off, and then I'll start a podcast about watching this Face Off podcast, and start a podcast about watching the Face Off podcast about watching the Face Off podcast. Before we get into all that, before we get too weird, too crazy, too out there, let me tell you what this is all about. I wrote it up a little bit, and then it's in the down there, that part of the YouTube, right down there. What do you call that? The description or something? It's down there somewhere. You can read it yourself if you want to. Dissect it. I may have made some edits at this point, but I doubt it. I think I'll just put it in there how it is. So anyway, without further ado, welcome to the Face Off podcast with me, Derek Schoonover. The Face Off podcast is going to be a 52 episode experiment / journey of self-discovery / endurance test / attempt at a unifying theory of everything. In the future, we will find that even the smallest measurement of matter holds all of the coded blueprints for everything that has ever existed and everything that will ever exist. Much in the way DNA provides a window into the traits and characteristics of a person, we will discover the secret libraries of the universe. Extrapolating from this theory and pulling out of the future and into the now, I have become convinced that one could conceivably discover the coded blueprints to everything there ever was, is, or will be, hidden in the greasy folds of some random piece of American cinema. Enter Face Off. Each week for 52 weeks, I will watch Face Off with new eyes and report back my findings. Eventually, I hope to break through some dimensional time border and touch forever. Welcome to the show. That's Face Off podcast in a nutshell. If you haven't seen Face Off, let me clarify what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the movie with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, where John Travolta is a cop, Nicolas Cage is a criminal, and at some point they get their faces taken off of their heads and switched. It's some really high concept stuff. It's a sci-fi, thriller, crime, something movie, I would say early 2000s, late 99s. We're going to get into the specific details a little later down the road in some other episodes, but right now I just want to sort of dive in with impressions. First impressions. It's not technically first impressions because I did watch this movie a lot when it came out. I must have watched it maybe 20 times. Something like that. Peripherally. Maybe like 4 or 5 times, like watching the movie, and several more times just in the background, playing in the background while I was doing other things like drawing. I'd do that for hours at a time and need a lot. I had the VHS, I'm sure of that. So when it came out, it was kind of a mind blower. It was kind of a weird flick. So the idea here is that you, as the viewer, which again is probably just me, this guy, it's probably just me watching myself in some sort of weird, cascading, ever collapsing ego trip of madness with no end in sight, some weird merry-go-round of obsession, and I don't know what it would be. Just some kind of narcissist. It would be narcissistic. I would like watching videos of myself. It's a narcissistic thing to do. I'm into that. All right. Let's go ahead and keep. It's a merry-go-round of madness. Face Off starts on a merry-go-round, and you can see this for yourself. As of this taping, which it could be later on. Maybe you're watching this in the future. This could be the thing that united everybody. And I'm long gone by now, but this is still being shown in some sort of crazy holographic form where they have me full body instead of this really close weird face stuff, and I'm talking to people and people are interacting with me because they have cracked or I cracked it. I found the blueprints of the universe, of everything, of it all. It all came together, and it was because of Face Off, the Face Off podcast, which we're all involved in now. We're all party to at this point. So go watch the movie as of this taping, which is 5/28/2018. As of this taping, Face Off is available on Netflix, and this podcast is not sponsored by Netflix. You notice that, like all those Netflix shows, they find a way to mention Netflix. Is Netflix really that ubiquitous that like every stand-up comedian in the world is going to have a bit where they talk about Netflix at least a little bit? I don't think so. I think that's some sort of I don't know. But anyway, who the fuck cares? Go watch Face Off or don't. It doesn't matter, because this is ostensibly about Face Off, but this is about everything, the whole continuum, with Face Off as the spine. It's a merry-go-round of madness. Face Off starts with a merry-go-round. There's a merry-go-round. It's John Travolta and his son. They're hanging out. They're doing their thing. And fucking crazy-ass Nick Cage, who is insane in this movie. I think they said just be an insane criminal. You pretend like you're an insane criminal, because you're going to be an insane criminal. He goes to sniper shoot Nicolas Cage. No, he goes to sniper shoot John Travolta, shoots through his shoulder, kills his kid. John Travolta lives to suffer with the pain of having watched his little tiny son die in his arms from a bullet that was meant for him out of the gun of his arch nemesis, which there seems to be a relationship even before the movie starts. We're not really privy to it, but obviously Nicolas Cage killing John Travolta's son, that's the start of a relationship right there. You can start off on a good note, you can start off on a bad note. That's a pretty bad note. I'm going to just point out here, I think from this point on, I'll be kind of moving in and out of talking about these people as their characters and as the actors that play them. So we've got John Travolta, who plays Sean Archer. in the movie who is a real tight ass of a cop. Real tight ass. Just not having a lot of fun. But to be honest, or to be fair, he is dealing with his son's being his son is dead. He's dead, and it's kind of his fault for reasons that we don't never really understand. So Sean Archer is John Travolta. John Travolta is Sean Archer. Now, Nicolas Cage is Castor Troy. Castor Troy is Nicolas Cage. So if there's any confusion there, just if there's any confusion, there will probably be a poster back here and by the next episode with a lot of thumbtacks and red string and everything coming off of it. So keep an eye out for that. Look down there for other information. Go on to Wikipedia. Go on to Internet Movie Database. Do your own work. I don't give a fuck. Not to adding any confusion, but Castor Troy has a brother in the movie, and his name is Pollux Troy. Whoever wrote this movie has a thing for odd names. I don't know. Maybe he made them up. Maybe he just picked them out of the phone book. It's not for me to decide. You can do it however you want when you're writing something. It's your baby. You can do whatever you want, and people can add meaning to it or not. I keep trying to get these glasses straight. I'm like looking into my own eyes right now. This is such a weird masturbatory form of conversation. I'm having it literally with myself. I'm literally talking. I'm like, I could straighten those glasses out. It's very bizarre, but it fits with the face-off mythos, if you will. Yeah. That's pretty good. I'm pretty impressed. First and foremost, this movie is cheesy as hell. I'm gonna get back to. We're gonna loop around. We're gonna talk about how cheesy it is and how unexpectedly cheesy it is, because it is full on cheesy as fuck. And I gotta say, I probably haven't seen this movie in 18 years, maybe 20 years, maybe less. It's hard to say. I could look it up. I will know later. This is just I'm just spitballing here. And when I did see it, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I thought it had its flaws, but I watched it many, many times. It went into the rotation, movies that were playing around that time. I liked Nicolas Cage at the time. I liked that movie Snake Eyes. I thought that was pretty good. Broken Arrow with John Travolta. I thought that was pretty slick. Pretty cool. I like John Travolta too. I mean, he was still sort of riding on that Pulp Fiction shit. There was a weird movie, Swordfish, with John Travolta and Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry and some other people. I want to say there was another heavy hitter. I almost want to say like Philip Seymour Hoffman or something. Anyway, it was a weird one. It was one of the first movies that came out after 9/11 that had like a warning on the outside of the box at the video store, because the images might fuck with some people's heads because they did some weird shit, like, I don't know, towing a bus with a helicopter and crashing it into a building, something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I thought it was alright. Hacker movie. It's action-y shit. And John Travolta was trying to be cool. He really never found another character, after Pulp Fiction. That was a good character. I mean, it wasn't. When you look back, it's not that big of a deal. Just play a fucking stoned out hitman who's high as fuck most of the movie on heroin. It's like, it's whatever. You're cool. It's all good. I expected this movie. I expected I would enjoy this movie coming back to watch it, because I clearly enjoyed it at some point in the past. And then I came back to watch it, and I did not enjoy it. it took at least six viewings. I split it up into chunks, probably 15 to 20 minute chunks, maybe half an hour towards the end, and just swallowed it down. I had this idea for this podcast before rewatching the movie, and then I felt obligated after having the idea. It's gonna be a weird thing. I can just see like as this team of doctors and forensic specialists in 51 weeks are gonna start here. They're gonna be like, oh, this guy. There is some interesting neurosis right at the beginning. So I did not enjoy this movie at all. I didn't even enjoy it for the cheese factor. Like, there's some movies that are cheesy and it's cool. It's like, alright, this is cool. I mean, like the Room. I don't particularly like The Room, but a lot of people did like The Room. And it's a cheesy fucking movie, but it's kind of cool. I'm trying to think of one that I like that's cheesy. I like those comedies that nobody else likes, like Your Highness. I think that was a good one. I liked The Land of the Lost, that remake with Will Ferrell. I like that Mexican movie, the one with Will Ferrell that was in Spanish. That was funny as shit. Casa de Padre. So, see, that's not a good example, I guess, but it is kind of, because they are. I like Green Hornet. That was a cool one. That's Seth Rogen, right? But it was cheesy as fuck. I get it, but I did still like it. This one was cheesy in an almost offensive way, like violently cheesy. Not violently, like with the violence on the screen. That's actually sort of muted while still being completely over the top. I guess the gore is muted is what I'd say. But it was aggressively cheesy, that's what I would say. Like, they was working on their shits. I had an idea about the cheesiness, because this is a movie that's directed by John Woo, and if I'm not mistaken, which I will be often, but if I'm not mistaken, this is his first American movie. And it's interesting because I had the thought that it could be that if this movie was in Chinese and I was reading this movie as opposed to hearing it and I wasn't understanding the dialogue, it might be good. It might have been good. I don't think so, but it might have been. It would have been probably better than this is now, or than it is as it stands, you know. But it's not good. I'm distracted by the light. So, at the very beginning of this movie, we're going to kind of be all over the place in this one. I'm going to try to focus a little bit better later. But at the very beginning of the movie, Sean Archer, John Travolta, his son gets killed by Nicolas Cage, Castor Troy. This is a classic Hollywood move. There seems to be a hierarchy of people that you can kill in order to motivate the lead actor, who is almost always a man. The male lead. That's what we call it, the male lead. So you have to kill somebody in the male lead's family in order to provoke him into action. Sometimes you can kidnap them, and that's enough. Like Taken, where his daughter got taken. You remember that? So what I would say it is the hierarchy is something like a young daughter, young son, wife, older daughter, mother, older son, and then it just kind of devolves into meaninglessness there after that. Doesn't make any sense. So if you want to provoke somebody, you have to choose from that hierarchy. If you want to provoke a male lead into picking up his guns and going and doing something, you got to murder or kidnap those people in that order of descending importance. So the very first one, I believe the very top is going to be a young daughter, because nothing good is going to happen there. And you got to really get your move on and do something about it. All right? So, classic. That's a Hollywood thing. And this is the thing, if you look for it, you're going to see it all over the place in every movie that ever happens. There's exceptions. There's movies where the world is in jeopardy. But usually, even if the world's in jeopardy, in order to motivate the main character, you go fuck with his family. You go fuck with his people. That's just how it works. This movie is a lot about voyeurism. It's a lot about voyeurism. Because you could become the ultimate voyeur if you could switch your face with somebody else's face and live their life. You become the ultimate voyeur. You become them and decide how to interact with their world. It's putting you right there, right in there. So instead of looking through the window, you're actually inside the house. You're making decisions for this person. And in this case, it's a person that you hate or despise. And there's an interesting thing that happens in Face Off where these characters sympathize with each other to no end. Like, there is no reason for it. There's no reason for them to sympathize. There's no reason for Castor Troy to become entangled in Sean Archer's life with his wife and his daughter, because it goes towards nothing at the end. Spoiler alert, he's a total dick to him at the end. I mean, it's nothing. There's no point to it whatsoever. It's so bizarre that at some point he's like stressed out working Sean Archer's job. It's stupid. It's really weird. And the same with it's a little bit more understandable with Sean Archer taking over Castor Troy's life, because he's an active participant in their life and is also a functioning human being with a normal, not sociopathic like Castor Troy is. So he sees that these people do care for Castor Troy for some reason. There's friends and his, hookups, his girls, whatever. Gina Gershon, the great Gina Gershon. Doing alright? Not great in this movie. I mean, come on. This is a hard sell. She's sort of the damsel in distress, but the criminal damsel. Anyway, so Sean Archer, he's got a functioning set of emotions. So he, being taken out of his stressful life as a hard-ass police officer and put into Castor Troy's life, which is a life of freedom and drugs and sex and weirdness, violence, just crazy violence and stuff. He sees these people as people for the first time. Because up until this point, they were they were ways to get to Castor. And it didn't matter what happened to them. It didn't matter their life. He didn't even know that Gina Gershon had a kid who was ostensibly Castor Troy's child. We're led to believe that. She says, yeah, this is his kid. She says, this is your kid, because Sean Archer, that's Castor Troy's face. We're going to get to that in a minute. How that even goes down. These are just some random things that I had written down. I didn't double check on this, but there's a scene towards the beginning. There's a huge shootout. And I'm just remembering so many horrible things from the first 10 minutes of this movie. It sucks so bad. But there's a huge shootout in an airport. And there's a scene where I think it's Castor turns around and he shoots somebody with a shotgun. It's either Sean Archer or Castor Troy, but I'm pretty sure it's Castor Troy shooting a cop with a shotgun. It might have been the other way around, a criminal getting shot. But somebody gets shot with a shotgun and they fly into a bunch of boxes after being shot. And it's one of those scenes where you're absolutely sure that it's a wire thing. Like, you can tell just the way that the person moves that there's wires pulling them up into the air into this weird kind of thing, just by how they move. But in this case, not just by how they move, also by the gigantic wires that are still attached to them that have not been removed from the scene. And it's not a quick scene. It takes, I would say, 4 or 5 seconds of screen time, which is a long time. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a long time on screen, you know what I mean? To have some big, thick wires hanging. And I might have just hallucinated it, but look for it. If you're watching it, you just keep an eye on whoever gets shot throughout that whole scene. There's a lot of, like, flipping. And again, a lot of this stuff may be more acceptable, or more accepted, because John Woo was a superstar in China before he came here. So maybe this is a lot more accepted in China. I'm sure it is. I mean, I'm sure. I'm absolutely positive that it is, but it looks so weird here because none of these guys are used to it. And just on a very basic level, Nicolas Cage and John Travolta are both much larger than, like, the Chinese people who might be doing these kind of weird kung fu moves and gun moves and stuff that John Woo is known for. Just these odd movements. They just look very strange on these big guys, and they're trim in this movie. I mean, they're young and trim in this this flick, but they're still huge in comparison. There's a countdown. Oh yeah, there's a count. They go straight for the countdown right at the beginning. It's not the point of the movie, but it is the impetus of the decision to do the face-off operation. There's a countdown. There's a bomb that's put somewhere in the city, and it's gonna blow up. And Castor Troy gets fucked up. Spoiler alert! In the gunfight, he gets fucked up. He's in a coma. And so these people come to Sean Archer and they say, "Hey, the only other person who's going to know where this bomb is Pollux Troy, Castor's brother, who's in prison. So what we want to do, come here, buddy. What we want to do is we want to take your face off of your head. And we want to take his face off of his head. And we want to switch them around. And we're going to give you liposuction and a haircut. And get rid of your scars. Give you some tattoos or something. You're going to look just like him, buddy. It's going to be wild. And then what we're going to do is we're going to send you to prison as him. And not regular prison. This is the hard shit. This is a nasty prison. Then you got to buddy up to his brother, get him to talk. He's a crazy motherfucker too. Paranoid, psychotic, totally weird, like math dude. Crazy math dude. That's what's up. And we just want to send you in there and you talk to him and figure out where this fucking bomb is before the countdown ends and everybody dies. And John Travolta has the reaction that you'd expect. He goes, "What the fuck are you even talking about right now? What are you trying to convince me of in this very moment right now? You fucking crazy people. Who thought that this was a good idea? I'll do it." It might seem like I'm exaggerating, but that's almost word for word. That's almost word for word what happens. He's convinced almost instantly. It's like if you said to somebody, "Would you like to go get some ice cream?" And they're like, "No, man, we just ate ice cream." And they're like, "I know, but it's really good." And you're like, "All right, yeah, let's go try it. Why not?" It's like that. Oh yeah, no, cut it off. Get rid of my face with lasers. A lot of lasers. A lot of lasers. They just pull it right off and stick it right on, and perfect. Everything's perfect. And they have a voice alteration chip. Just don't get hit in the throat, stupid. So when the face goes on, Nicolas Cage has John Travolta's voice. I'm trying to picture the whole thing. Where John Travolta's in some vocal booth voicing Nicolas Cage, because it's not like he's not like going over the top. He's just like, hey, it's me, I'm John Travolta. Like, this is my voice on Nicolas Cage. And Nicolas Cage is like, what would I look like if John Travolta's voice is coming out of my mouth? It'd be like this. They erase it. I don't know. It's really weird. And okay, so at this point when they switch, all right, this is where it gets weird, guys. All right, because I remember thinking that this was cool when I was watching it when it first came out. I remember thinking, this is going to be interesting to see these two guys who are great actors, right? First mistake. It's going to be interesting to see these guys switch roles. So now John Travolta, or now Nicolas Cage is this hard-edged cop, but he's got to pretend like he's a psycho. So, alright, so Nicolas Cage starts the movie playing the psycho, right? And then he becomes this hard-ass cop, right? Who then has to pretend to be this crazy psycho. Good enough to fool his own brother. What? It's insane. Those are weird levels to go from. And then the same for John Travolta. He's got to act like a hard-edged cop. And then he's got to act like a crazy motherfucker. And then he's got to act like a crazy motherfucker acting like a hard-ass cop. But not a lot, because he's a crazy motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So, Nicolas Cage goes buck wild in the beginning. Just full-on, wide-eyed, complete spaz, weirdo, fucking... He actually says at some point, I'm going to save that for another one. I can't do lines right now. Anyway, his confidence is off the charts, so just say that. It's pretty horrible to watch. And then he switches it, and his angst is off the charts. And it's like, ooh. Ooh, ew, it's so gross. It's like drippy and disgusting, and to the point where you're like, God damn, I thought it was bad when John Travolta was all angsty, but this motherfucker, oh no, he's like, it's this really no kind of thing going on. I mean, Nick fucking Cage, that's what it says on my notes. It says Nick fucking Cage, and this guy, it's one of those things where maybe if this movie was directed by somebody different, this would have been a phenomenal performance. Maybe they could have been like, okay, hold on, let's just a little less, a little there, and a little over here, and it would have been like, bam, some cool shit. But it is not. It's rough. It's a hard watch. It's hard to watch Nicolas Cage's face doing things that faces should not do. Especially faces shaped like this. He's got a weird face. He's very skinny. Very sunken in this movie. And long face. We can't do it. Long Nicolas Cage face. Okay, this is an action movie. This is a balls out action flick. with heavy, heavy identity issues in it and coping mechanisms and like weird psychology stuff. Just to explain it, it comes across as heavy, super heavy. But when you watch it, there's this banality to everything. Where it's like, your kid died? Are you sure? I mean, it looks like you're sure, but I don't think you're sure. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a psycho? Are you sure? Are you sure you're not just some dude pretending to be a psycho? I'm really aware I'm watching a movie right now. It's like it was meant to be that way. Like, the whole production team was like, let's make this an experience that you cannot fall into. Every single turn is gonna make you totally aware that you're wasting your life for a whole year watching this movie every single week. 2 hours, over 100 hours of I told a friend about this, and he said, that's gonna change your DNA. I said, yeah, this is probably true. But here's another thing. We're gonna get off of the banality, because there is, oh my god, and there are some supporting characters in this movie. Holy fuck. The other police, some wooden ass, crazy bad dialogue. Crazy bad, to where you're like, no, you didn't do that. Did you do that? Like, you didn't even, did you try other stuff at all? It's like one of those things where they stick real close, to a script, which works sometimes. That's what I think. It's less about this, more about this. I think maybe down here, maybe it's more about this right here, this huge empty space where something should be. There is a point that I'm going to come back to a whole bunch of times, because I've wanted to talk about it for a long time with somebody. And I am obviously the person that I'm going to talk to with it about. I'm going to talk about it with. That's what I mean. There's a thing in Hollywood, and I'm going to compile a list for this. It'll come up multiple times throughout this whole thing. I think it's one of the reasons why this was a really random thing. I literally just saw Face Off, and I thought, like, I saw it on Netflix, just the little movie cover, and I thought, wouldn't it be funny if that movie had the meaning of life hidden in it? And I was like, how long do you think we'd be able to find that? Probably a year. Let's make a podcast out of it. Okay, now I'm completely tied to it. I would hate myself if I didn't do it. So it was a very random thing. But I think unconsciously there was a part that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time and haven't talked about. And it's this pervasiveness in Hollywood where, I guess the simplest way to put it would be, one soul goes into another body. You know what I'm saying there? So in Face Off, we have faces. It's the faces that get changed. So one person becomes another person. So this person has their face taken off and put on this person's body. And so now this person can act like that person if they want to, or they can be themselves with a different face. So what I'm trying to say is that this happens. This is a weird example of it. I don't think there's any other movie You know what? There has to be some other movies. I guess like there's a part in Sin City where somebody had a reconstructed face. Maybe that's what it is mostly. Is somebody has a reconstructed face. So they look like a different person, but not like a specific different person. You know. I think there has been some movies like that. I can't think of it, but there's something sticking out in my brain right now. But the thing that I'm talking about that is pervasive in Hollywood, and if you start looking for it, you'll see it everywhere. And like I said, I'm going to try to make a list, a more comprehensive list. But a good example of it was this movie called Fallen with Denzel Washington and John Goodman. And it was about like a demon that would take people over. It would just float through the air. And so this person would be crazy, and then they could, I think they had a touch or something, just bump into somebody, and they'd pass, And so this demon would take over other people's bodies. So at some point it took over John Goodman. And at some point it took over Denzel Washington, And so what it is some spirit that moves from person to person. Or let's say I'm going to do obscure ones, but like this movie called Surrogates with Bruce Willis, where everybody has a surrogate. So the person who you see on the street is actually just some sort of robot suit that some other person is wearing back at their house. You're not interacting with that person. It's like an avatar. There's another one, Avatar, where you have somebody in a wheelchair as a person who gets put into an alien, to take his brain and put him into an alien body. There's some interesting things going on in Westworld right now, if you're watching Westworld, where they're really sort of taking their time around this idea of an interchangeable consciousness, so you could take one person's personality, put it in a different body. I mean, it's fairly obvious, but they're sort of really taking the time about that. I could just... There's a lot of them. Just so many of them. I mean, even like in those Marvel movies and stuff, there's Loki masquerades as Zeus for a while. That's not right. Zeus? No, Odin. Loki masquerades as Odin for a long time. So he's using that form in order to get some shit done. You know what I mean? And this happens so much where it doesn't seem like it happens a lot. And my examples are not really great, but it happens so fucking much where one person is changed into another person. If you look for it, you'll start finding it, and it's subtle sometimes. It's subtle, but it feels like a primer for virtual reality almost. Like, you know what? Like giving up this meat and moving into something different. I don't know. I think in conspiracy a lot of the time, and everything looks fucking fucked from every angle. There's a song by Rage Against the Machine, but not Rage Against the Machine, the Prophets of Rage, the new one. It's called Unfuck the World. And I was like, that's a cool title. And I told Angela that title. I was like, this song's called Unfuck the World. And she was like, you can't unfuck something. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, once it's fucked, it's fucked. I was like, God damn, you're right. You can't unfuck it. So that's how I see the world. It's fucked. We could start over fresh. That's what we're doing right now with the Face Off podcast. Is we're trying to find the foundation underneath everything that is unchanging. We're trying to find that level in Minecraft that you can't dig into. You ever play Minecraft? Get to it. You can't dig into it. It doesn't ever change. Even if you break all the other bricks, it doesn't ever change. It's the same thing. It's a fundamental. We're trying to find the fundamental foundation. Everything else above that can burn. It's alright. And I am positive that we can find a portal, a porthole, it's not gonna be a portal, it'll be a porthole we can reach through and face off and touch that fundamental foundation. Alright, let's get back to the weird list. I want to get through this list for this first episode so we can have a fresh perspective every time. So there's weird touches, strange little touches in this whole movie. The movie has a lot of really dun 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 action movie music, bum 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 bum, you know, that kind of shit. But there's these little like guitar, electric guitar, you know, that kind of shit. They just pop up randomly. I mean, it sort of feels like Castor Troy's like calling card when he does something super psycho and crazy. It's like little rock and roll guitar solo or some shit, but it does seem to appear randomly, and it almost feels like they went deep on it to where when Sean Archer has Castor Troy's face, the music is even a little confused. The music is like, what are we even doing here? Who is this guy? Who are we seeing right? Who are you trying to convince? And then it was like, oh, and then he would put in the extra effort to convince everybody around him. The music was like, yeah, now we know who it is. Let's party. You know what I mean? And the same with the other thing. It's like, everybody's a little confused. Even the soundtrack. Even the soundtrack is confused as to what the fuck is going on in this motherfucking movie. It is tone deaf. The music is tone deaf. It feels like it doesn't know what's happening. That's a weird thing to have happen in your movie. Is the music doesn't know what's happening in the movie. It's confused. It's like if you see a scene of somebody cooking and it's got this like dun 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 dun, but it's just somebody making a pie and it's all nice out and stuff. It's confusing. Your mind's like, what is happening? Is something gonna happen? Something better happen, you know? As an example, this is I'll drop these in all over the place. As I've been watching movies for a long time. So, as an example of tone-deaf, weird music, there is a movie called Mission to Mars. It's an older one. It's a Disney movie. I want to say that it's got humans in it, and they do things. Yeah, it's a pretty safe bet. God, I want to say Bill Paxton, but it's not Bill Paxton. It's somebody else. Oh, God, who was it? That doesn't matter. Anyway, Mission to Mars has some very interesting choice for mood music. Check it out if you want to. It's a fucking bullshit movie. I don't know. It actually might have been an okay movie. Add different music. Here's the thing: is I don't like mood music. I am irritated every time that some fucking music comes on in the background and tries to change how I'm feeling about something. It drives me insane. That's another thing you should look for. You should look for is how your mood is being affected by sounds that don't fucking matter. This is why I got into watching like HBO shows for a while. Those golden era shows, the like Deadwood and The Wire and stuff, because they didn't fuck around with fucking mood music. They just let the shit be quiet when it was quiet, and that was cool. And I hate that. I hate it. Drives me crazy. So, let it be quiet. Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction. There's no mood music. There's music, but it's always playing on something. You know, Kill Bill had mood music. Still good, I guess, but god damn it. Do we really need it? Do we really need it? Just let it be quiet, baby. It's okay. So, who is this movie made for? Who is the target demographic? I have the same question about teen sex comedies that are R-rated teen sex comedies. Who are you making these movies for? If you're making an R-rated teen sex comedy, the R rating in the rules is supposed to keep what would appear to be the target demographic, teens, away from seeing the movie. You know who those teen sex comedies are for. I know who they're for. They're not for teens. You know what I mean? They're for teens as a subterfuge. You know what I mean? They're for older men. That's who they're for. This is older men like to see teens frolic. It's funny that it's like I don't know. It's terrible. So this movie feels that way. It feels like it was built for 13-year-olds and 12-year-olds, but it's an R-rated movie and it's got some heavy psychological shit going on. Who the fuck is it for? You know, but it's not actiony enough. I don't know. It's like not actiony enough, and it's not psychological enough. Both those things aren't enough. It's like Casino Royale. Casino Royale, that James Bond movie. It was a spy movie and it was a gambling movie, but it was either too much of one or it was not enough of either. Does that make sense? It was not enough of a gambling movie to be a good gambling movie, and it was not enough of a spy movie to be a good spy movie. It was just enough of both to just be a movie that sucked. I fucking hated it. It doesn't matter. I don't like James Bond really, because whatever. So who is this movie made for? It was made for me. It was made for me to do this project. This project right here. So I can check that off the list. We don't even need to wonder about that anymore. This movie has its origins in the tiny grain of everything, pre-Big Bang everything, and it's been working its way out for billions and billions of years. Eons, baby. And the whole point is for this. This is it. That's who the target demographic is. Me. Alright, you guys? This movie wasn't made by John Woo and Nicolas Cage and motherfucking John Travolta and Gina Gershon. No. And a bunch of other people. Margaret Cho is in there. Somebody named C.H. Pounder, and you know who that is. You might not know you know, but you know when you see this person. And a bunch of other people too. But this movie was made for me. They didn't make it. God made it. And by God, I don't mean fucking God, alright? I mean the foundation, the fundament made this movie, alright? It's a little late. It's just hot in here. Too, I can't run the fan right now because it would pick up on the mic. I think we have one topic left, and it is a doozy. It's a doozy. And it is hot in here. I'm gonna I mean, this thing is not gonna this is not gonna get listened to again before I post it to the world. So this is ill-advised at best. But let's get to this last note, and I'm gonna try to fight through the delirium that's kicking in right now, and really just go all in for this last. No, I don't remember what the note is, so I'm going to look at it right now. Okay, Face Off. Apparently the whole crew, the writer, the director, the producers, the myriad producers, so many green lights to get this movie made, permits, just extras, crew, building sets. They were in a motherfucking airport. There's nuns at one point. I mean, they had a prison, a floating prison. Nicolas Cage jumps off the edge. Helicopters, bombs, guns, violence, a police station. I mean, drugs, shootouts, rappelling, just everything, anything that you could possibly. There's not one action movie trope that you could desire that's not in this movie. There's a tiny gun, a tiny pistol that is an automatic pistol, but it looks like a regular gun. They had the same gun in Broken Arrow, but it looked different, but it was the same. Just I've never seen that before in another movie. That's weird. All this stuff, right? All these things. It appears the whole reason, the whole point, the whole bent of this movie was to answer one question. The age-old burning question of what if I had to shoot all the guns at myself? But it wasn't myself. It was somebody else with my face. And I had their face. And they had to shoot all the guns at me too. Would that be weird or what? I bet it would be weird. And as it turns out, it is. It's pretty fucking goddamn weird. It's weird for everybody. Alright? It's confusing. It's confusing to watch. It's like, what are they trying to do here? What are they trying to do? They literally, and they were too, are they literally, all these people, are they literally trying to convince me that they took Nicolas Cage's face off and put it on John Travolta's head? Is that what they're trying to do right now? Is that what you're trying to convince me of? I've been convinced of other things. I've been convinced that the Incredible Hulk is a real thing. He's not. It's just computer graphics. I was convinced. I was like, man, it looks so cool. I want to hang out with the Incredible Hulk, baby. I've been convinced that Titanic was sinking. I've been convinced of so many things. But you're going to try to convince me. You're going to try to get me to believe for even a second that she took John Travolta's face off, put it on Nicolas Cage's body. Assholes. Why would you do that to me? Why would you do that to me? I thought we had a relationship, Hollywood, but you fucked it up. You pushed too far. So on a quick note, I read a theory about, this was on cracked.com, a theory about Titanic that I would like to spread around too. I thought it was a good theory, and it was that Jack was a girl who was pretending to be a boy. It's a good theory. I think it's probably true. Go back and watch it again. I did. It holds up. It holds up good. Makes it a more interesting movie, I think. So, in closing, we are done for tonight. Alright? This is over. If you stuck around, kudos to you for doing that. And if I'm honest, it's, again, probably me watching me, and I'm probably going to do a commentary on this video much the same way I did a commentary on Face Off. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing that we got to remember. This is number 1. We got 51 more of these things, possibly 52 more, because, for bonus episode, I was thinking as a bonus episode, I might watch the movie and comment on it in real time, and then that way, if you, who again is probably me, if you wanted to watch the movie at the same time, have the experience with me, would work out. Alright. Thanks again. Episode number 1. Down. This background is probably going to be different for the next episode. Don't get used to it. Don't fall in love with my red wall. Alright? Thank you for watching. Me. Again. It's probably me thanking myself for watching. Have a good day, night, evening, morning. Have a good life. That's what I'm going to say. From this point on, 110%. Make it work. I'm trying to spontaneously come up with a catchphrase, and the closest that I've got is literally, as a catchphrase, is I'm trying to spontaneously come up with a catchphrase. Doesn't really roll off the tongue, but guys, I'm trying to spontaneously come up with a catchphrase. This is deep cuts. I just don't want to stop talking, is the problem. But I'm going to. Thank you. Have a good night. I'm trying to spontaneously come up with a catchphrase.